We have all heard that old cliche, when in doubt, throttle out. To new riders, this is an utter impossibility. It's a lie old riders tell beginners just to sound tough. An impenetrable barrier built of broken bones and bloodied skin. But to experienced riders, it's gospel truth. It's not just a saying, it's a reflex built by hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of riding. I'm by no means a perfect rider, that's pretty apparent, but that's not what it takes to believe or apply the old throttle out adage. It's not about the fastest speed, but rather what I like to call the critical speed. And I believe this one factor, more than any other, pushes a rider past that beginner plateau and opens the door to a whole new world of riding. Though you can get better at it the more that it's applied, it's not really something that you practice like static balance or a figure eight. Rather, it's a recipe of physicality, reflex, and psychology, but all under constant perception of a loss of control and a real-life threat to one's health. You can't really learn it unless you put yourself in danger. So when does a rider cross the threshold from firm denier to true believer, and in turn, embrace the critical speed? My veteran friends Dan and Brigham came up with a perfect analogy. The United States Air Force wasn't even a month old when hotshot test pilot and World War II ace Chuck Yeager gingerly climbed into the cockpit of his Bell X-1 rocket-propelled aircraft. The X-1 Glamorous Glennis, named for Yeager's wife, was essentially a missile. The aircraft weighed about 13,000 pounds and had the explosive power of as much TNT. It's not known how many test pilots died to reach Mach 1, but Yeager likely knew. Enough pilots had died, enough planes destroyed, that they had a name for what happened when a pilot approached the speed of sound: compressibility. The airplane creates a pressure wave that collapses in on itself and the fuselage of the plane, crushing it like a tin can. The release from the B-29 is smooth, and Captain Yeager ignites the rockets. The buffeting rattles the X-1 like a paint can, but Yeager still accelerates. At 0.94 Mach, he feels a loss of control. He engages his horizontal stabilizer, and by a miracle, it holds together. He keeps on pushing. At 0.965 Mach, the gauge stopped working. The rattling and shaking is getting more and more intense. He's holding the throttle to accelerate, but the Mach meter doesn't budge. The controls are shaking wildly. Compression on the X-1 is imminent. If the sound barrier was impossible to cross, Yeager was going to go out hitting it at full speed. His Mach meter flicks well past Mach 1. The buffeting stops, and Yeager makes history as the first pilot to break the sound barrier in level flight. Ahead of the pressure and sound waves that had been literally crushing his airplane, the sky is silky smooth. That day, mankind found out that not only is the sound barrier breakable, but it's calm, stable, and oddly much safer on the other side. All it took was a ton of bravery to keep inching the throttle through the insane buffeting and turbulent air. The difference between Captain Yeager and those unknown pilots who went before was just a little longer on the throttle. Despite the terrifying buffeting and loss of control, the solution wasn't to slow down, which proved lethal for the pilots who were swallowed by their own pressure wave. It was to maintain throttle and push through the scariest part. Then, once that fear is behind you, it's all silk. So what does this have to do with riding a motorcycle? Well, I've had the pleasure of witnessing riders break the sand barrier on my rallies many times, but it's never been caught while flying a drone. This is Rob. He's about 50, riding for a little more than a year, recently lost 100 pounds, which is really admirable. Rob's an absolute stud. And Rob, like many, is a self-proclaimed sand hater. As you can see, he's struggling. His landing skids are down, all his weight is on his butt, So when his feet are constantly hitting the surface, it's throwing him off balance, twisting him side to side, and moving him back on the seat, out of control, tiring him out, making the stretch of sand a nightmare. You can see that front tire digging in, taking control of the bike and throwing off his steering. One more dangerous dab, and then he gets it. He's tempted, but he doesn't let his foot touch. Here he has to slow down for the dip, but then he gets right back to what he knows is the best place to ride, the critical speed. He's not going that much faster than he was before, but he's confident. His speed is just enough for his front tire to glide over the sand instead of breaking through and sinking in. This is the moment when Rob broke the sand barrier, bravely pushing past the scary, past the out of control, past the fear, and driving into the clean air, into the smooth, into the flow, into the fast and controlled, the fun and the safe. Captain Yeager's, and to a much lesser extent Rob's example of bravery can apply both to motorcycles and to our lives. At times we hold ourselves back when things get scary, when we fear failure or the unknown or the turbulence that we're stuck in. But often, all it takes is to hold the throttle just a little longer. Much love, ladies and gentletubers. Have a ride out.